Happiness according to me is the freedom to keep choosing what you want to do minute to minute, which will be fun for you at that time. So I know happiness is always a choice, they say, and it's true because you should be able to choose what's fun for you. And as kids, sometimes we don't let them choose. When they want to eat a chocolate, we'll say no. They want to go to sleep early or sleep late, we'll say no. They want to watch TV, we'll say no. So we keep trying to control them, and yes, as parents we think we're doing what's good for them, but by constantly telling children what to do, according to me, and this is only my point of view, I think what we're doing is we're not letting them think for themselves. So yes, you lay out the general guidelines and the non-negotiables, but apart from that, I think giving children the freedom to do what they really want to do is what makes happy kids. I really work with adults until some friends came to me and insisted my child is going through a lot of anger issues or a lot of recurring illnesses, and that's where I really started foraying into working with kids, and I realized how much more simpler it is to treat children than it is to treat adults, because the way I primarily function is by working with people's subconscious minds. Now, when I work with their subconscious minds, it's basically going to the root cause of an illness in your mind, finding out what's going on, doing the emotional surgery, as I call it, at that level of the subconscious mind, and letting them release the pattern. Now in adults, when I release the pattern, they could take a little long to recover from it, get it out of their system, but with kids it's beautiful because they do it instantly. Kids don't care that they've had this illness for 5 years, for 2 years, or for 2 days. The minute I share that awareness with them, they're so open to receiving it at the subconscious level, and consciously they're not so logical, not so intelligent as much as we are, thankfully. So, which is why it becomes really simple for them to let go of things which we find difficult to let go of. So my experience with children has been fantastic, and what I would like to share with parents here is that every illness is actually just a message that your child is trying to give you. So even in adults, when an illness happens, it's something that your body is trying to tell you about your emotional or mental state, which manifests in the physical form as your illness. The same way, when it's with children, anything that is going on with them emotionally, actually especially for children, not only what's going on with them, anything that's going on in the family, to a parent that they are closer to, or if there is some major, like a fight or something going on, a change, where people are shifting or leaving or going, or there's a death in the family, children may or may not show it like in their daily lives that, oh, I'm affected by this, but subconsciously, if they do hold on, it will manifest as some or the other illness. And it could be a very everyday things. It could be like a cold cough, it could be waking up at night crying or feeling cold and shivering. It could be molluscum, it could be skin rashes and issues, allergies. It could be all these things, and sometimes all we do is think, oh my god, this kid has low immunity, let's take him to the doctor, let's give him the medication, let's pump in some supplements. While you can do all that, it's also going to make a lot of sense if you just kind of take a pause and really think what's been going on in the family, what's been going on with us as parents, and is there anything that the child is actually at an emotional level affected by. So if I had to share some examples of what I just explained about the subconscious mind and illnesses manifesting from the emotional space of children, I remember my very first client, as I said, was this amazing kid who came to me who had nosebleeds. Now this child, since he was 5 years old, he'd been getting nosebleeds, and when they brought him to me, he was 10 years old, and at that point his nose had been bleeding 5-6 times a day, which is a lot for children. And you can imagine how messy that was, like, you know, in the middle of school, while eating food, while sleeping, anytime the nose, the vein would just rupture and there would be nosebleed. And his parents were absolutely terrorized by the idea. And they realized, they saw my TEDx video, they said, okay, you deal with the subconscious mind. All the doctors have told us, no, cannot happen. So can you just help us out? And I said, okay, I mean, what I do with adults, I'll do it with him and see if what works. And that day was amazing. It actually changed my life, because I realized how much simpler, as I was saying, it is to work with kids. So I did a regression for this child, connected him to his body, to his subconscious mind, and what I uncovered was that there was a feeling of helplessness, because as a kid they're going through so much. I mean, they're seeing things going on in the family, relationships between in-laws, parents, or in school, or everywhere, and they're feeling a lot of times helpless about shit, there's nothing I can do here, or you know, what's going on. And because of that feeling of helplessness, this kid had manifested that feeling as his nosebleed. Now, the minute I changed that program in his subconscious mind, and it was a simple change, like, okay, so if you feel helpless, there are things you can change, there are things you can't change, so change the ones you can, and, you know, have allowance for the things you can't change. So it was, and of course this is at the subconscious level. When I reprogrammed him, and of course when I sent him off from the session, I didn't know whether he would get a nosebleed after this or not. But in October he's completing a year, and I think his nose has probably bled only once in the last 10 months, which is miraculous. Going from 5-6 times a day to once in a year is, I would say it was a success. But more so because A, the child was willing to release, and B, because his parents thought of really looking at the emotional or something beyond the physical and medical help. And I think hats off to them, because once they came to me, lots of other children started coming to me. So if I had to share another example, there was a child who would keep getting fractures. Now, not that you know, his parents came to me when he had a fracture, but they were talking to me about it, and you know, they were telling me that, oh, he's so active, and you know, he does this sport and that sport, and you know, he's always so active, that's why he keeps getting fractures, and he's got about 5 fractures till now. And fractures are not normal. I mean, I know active children get them, but when I was talking to the kid, I realized at some point that while he was thoroughly enjoying everything, and he's an athlete, an absolute pro, but this kid's body was just kind of asking for a break once in a while from being pushed so hard by absolutely dedicated parents who wanted to see him successful. So it's a good thing, but it was too much of a military regimen to live in, and the fracture kind of gave him that, you know, time out. So that's another thing that could be going on. One of the other examples, there was this child with dead skin on his toe, and absolutely, I mean, just getting worse for 2 years, and horrendous to look at, very, very ugly, like a fungal infection which was leading to dead skin and all of that. And allopaths, I mean, the pediatrician had said that there's nothing we can do, go to a homeopath and get medicines, and all of that was being done, but nothing was helping. When I did a session with this kid, I came to know that there is stuff going on in the family that the kid is feeling overwhelmed by and wants to shut his awareness. So when you shut your awareness, it's like saying, I want to go numb or dead. Like, you know, I don't want to feel all this that's going on here. And when he emotionally shut his awareness, it manifested as this dead skin on his toe. And not surprisingly, when the issue in the family got taken care of, the toe started healing. So sometimes when I get a client, a child client, I actually talk to the parents. What's going on with you all? What's going on in the family? Is there a fight going on? You know, is there grandparents moving out or moving in? Or, you know, when you actually look at the whole picture, you'll come to know just how aware children are of everything and how much they're picking up from everywhere. I mean, we might think it's a really small thing. My child's best friend moved to America and he shifted out, and the children will forget. Children will forget, they'll move on. But if that child is emotionally holding on, it'll show up somewhere or the other. So if I had to just share a personal example, my children, I have 2 boys, 3 and 7. And when my little one was 1 year old, he was constantly falling ill with this bronchial asthma. And it was horrible. As a parent who's ever gone through it, you would know that it's when the child cannot breathe, there's a lot of palpitation, the stomach is rising and falling, a lot of distress, the heartbeat is crazy high, and you rush them to the hospital, get them nebulized and oxygen and all of that, and it's a very scary scene. Now, because I'm a healer, so of course when my child is unwell, I'm not a healer, I'm a panicky mother. But once that panic phase has passed, when I actually sat and thought about, this is the third or fourth time I had taken him to hospital. It was happening every 10-15 days. What's going on with him? I realized that it was coinciding, his bout of illness was coinciding with a phase where I was getting stressed about something or the other going on in my life. That's when I realized, and it was actually reinforced, children are absolutely energetically connected to the parents, and especially to whichever parent they are closer to. So because my son was more connected to me, every time I went through the smallest stress, my child would, obviously for me when I go through stress, it's okay, I'll say, oh, I'm stressed, call a friend and probably crib about it a little bit and finish it. But that same amount of stress is also energetically felt by my child because he's so connected to me, which for my physical body is okay to handle, but that same amount of stress for him, his body gives up, and that's where he goes into distress. And there was a point I remember, and this is a little funny, but I was getting stressed one day about something at work, and I was dropping my child to school. While driving, I'm thinking about my stress, and he's sitting there, and suddenly I realized, oh my god, I'm getting stressed, and I know if I get stressed, he's going to get bronchitis, asthma. So I'm literally looking at him and going like, Arjun, don't you get stressed about this now, I will handle it at my level. And I'm like cutting cords, like, don't you take my stuff. So at that level, and with that phase of stress, nothing happened to him. So just trying to share to parents that sometimes it's all your stuff which they're energetically absorbing. I mean, we're all like SpongeBobs, but they are more so because then once they absorb it, they don't know what to do with it. And for their tiny little bodies, it's sometimes a lot to handle. So really just look at what's going on with your children, look at what's going on with you as a parent, as a partner, as a wife, as a husband, as a daughter-in-law. I mean, because some of those areas of your life are manifesting as your child's anger. I mean, sorry to jump into this again, but there was this child who was coming with extreme temper tantrums, like anger issues, where he would just lose it, break things, throw things, and and like people were like, oh my god, like this kid just has the worst temper. But you know where that was coming from? The mother, she was so upset and frustrated with her life, and of course she was having her own meltdowns. But as I said, energetically the child was absorbing her anger, trying to help her reduce it. But now when he's absorbed it, now he doesn't know what to do with it, so it manifests as his temper tantrums. The minute you heal the mother, the child's temper tantrums go down. So, I mean, literally, remember, everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. So yes, it's a temper tantrum, but if you look at it, it's not even his. So who does it truly belong to? So a lot of parents ask me that, is there something I can teach my child which will empower him to be more in control of himself emotionally or mentally? And trust me, it's easier than you think. As I told you, I have 2 boys, 3 and 7, and both have learned this healing from me. It's called Access Consciousness, and it's one of the most phenomenal things that is available. Now, if you realize it, we're all conscious beings, right? As human beings, what separates us is our consciousness. And if we just live our life consciously, minute by minute, making the choices, okay, what do I want to do now? Okay, last time I failed. Can I do better this time? What will it take for me to do better this time? So all you have to do is you want to live in the moment. Now, all our scriptures talk about live in the now, be detached and all of that. And then, but how do you do it? How do you translate it into your life? So I realized when I learned, and I've learned lots of healing modalities, but when I learned access consciousness, it was like this moment for me where I realized, wow, this is the how. Everybody tells you what to do. This is right, you should do this, you should do that. Yeah, but how do you implement it in your life? And when I learned access, I loved it more than anything because children learn it free. When I go as a parent to learn a course, children learn it free. So what are some of the tools of access, if I could just quickly share? First and foremost, any access class will teach you to ask questions. And a lot of times we want our children to ask questions, don't we? But when they start asking them, what do? We give them answers. No. Asking a question is not to get an answer. That kind of sounds counterintuitive, but the reason we ask questions is to get an awareness. Now see, an answer can be right or wrong. Like I remember my child asked me, Mama, can I go to the moon right now? And I said no. I mean, obviously he can't, right? I mean, he's not in a spacecraft, he can't just launch himself and go to the moon. So I was coming from that thought process that no, you can't go to the moon. But when I said no, it was like a full stop for my child. His plan to go to the moon ended there, that was it. You know, like it was written in stone for him. And instantly I realized, oh my God, what have I just done? I gave him an answer without thinking, unconsciously. And that's the end of it for him. So I went back instantly and I asked him a couple of questions. I said, okay, what's going on with you? What is this going to the moon? What's going on in your mind? And he started talking about something he had read and seen, and we discussed it. But one of the first things they'll teach you in access is ask questions. So when you ask a question, it is to gain an awareness. Now an awareness is always light. It's, you know, that gut feeling where you know, this is it. I don't need any justification. I don't need any logic. I don't need any proof. I just know this is. So we teach children to ask questions and start trusting their awareness. So it's like, I'll give you an example. I asked my child, what would you like to eat for dinner? And there are days when he says, I want to eat carrots because it's good for my eyes. And there are days when he says, I want to eat French fries because I just want French fries. And I tell him, I said, okay, ask your body, do you really want French fries? And he says, yes, I want French fries. My body said, I want French fries. I honor it, even though I know sometimes it's just him making it up. But when I start honoring his answer, his choice, I'm actually teaching him to start thinking for himself, because I'm empowering him with the power of choice, which somewhere as parents, and even before I learned access, I was not giving him. No, I know vegetables are good for you. I know you should have soup. I know you should not have colas and fuzzy drinks. So when I start doing that, I know you don't know. I know you don't know. I know you don't know. What am I telling my child? I'm telling him that you can't think for yourself. I have to think for you. Now, even when my child falls ill, I remember my child had a lot of temperature that day, and I asked him, I said, do you want to take a medicine right now? And he said, no, Mama, I don't need a medicine. I think I just need to hug you and sleep. I said, okay, let's do that. Really just honoring the child's awareness, which he has already got tons of, and just allowing that to blossom into a full-fledged superpower. Because that's what most kids are. They're all X-Men. I mean, if you've seen the movies, they're all kids with superpowers, and each kid has their own superpower. Somebody's great with building blocks, somebody's great with colors, dance, I mean different things, and they can actually contribute and heal the world by their abilities if we just allow them to tap into it. And this is something Access taught me. So I'm truly grateful to it, and as I said, my 3-year-old and 7-year-old both have learned it. Lots of other kids have come to class all over the world and learned it. And if it interests you, you can know more on any Access Consciousness website. Just check it out. how to actually make kids happy. Well, if you realize, kids are naturally born happy. They are very, very happy by themselves. If you let them be, if you ever see a kid playing by himself or herself, they are extremely happy to be, do. It is us parents who interview saying, "Arey, don't do this, don't do that, don't go here, don't climb there," and that's when we stop them from being happy. But if you do realize that you want to make your child happier, some of the very simple things that you can do is, first and foremost, listen. Listening to the child is, I think, one of the most underrated tools you can use. I mean, it's not a tool, it's really just should be a way of life with everybody. Listen to your partner, listen to people, just listen more, because everybody has so much to share and so much to say, and by just being themselves. But if we're so looking at talking, finishing things, doing things, running about our day, and we just don't stop and share those few moments where we are quiet and just listening. And especially when we listen to our children, it'll amaze you with how much wisdom, how much compassion, how much joy they actually have. And so the first thing you can do is listen. The second thing I would say, and don't judge children. Don't judge anybody, especially not yourself, but definitely not your children. See, each child is different, and everybody with even little bit, who works with children will tell you this. Each child is different. Somebody, likes to do this and somebody likes to do that. But what we as parents do is, we want to see a uniformity and acceptability in all the children, that, okay, at least my child is getting good marks and doing one sport and one musical instrument and, likes to read a book and whatever. But in doing that, we're actually trying to standardize the child. Instead of bringing out the uniqueness, we're actually making him mediocre so that he's like everybody else and fits in. Now, when you judge a child, oh, you did this good, oh, you did this bad, or this was right, this was wrong, children stop going by their awareness and choice, and they will start trying to second guess, what is it that mama will say is right? Or what is it that papa will say, this you shouldn't have done, this was wrong. So we don't want to get them stuck in this whole zone of right and wrong. We want to get children to be really free to explore their sensibilities. And if we keep judging them, and judging is really simple. Sometimes we're like, this child is really thin. Or this child is really fat. This child is very shy. This child is very angry. We say it so simply, but we don't realize that the words we are saying are getting written in stone in their heads. So my child, for example, now I realize it, he was never a shy child, but there was a phase where he started doing a little bit of that. Now when my family started noticing, everybody started saying, oh, he's a shy boy, he's a shy boy, he's a shy boy. You give him 3-4 minutes with anybody, after that he's very talkative. But now he's been labeled as shy. So now the next time I tell him, come and say hi to auntie, he will say, no mama, I'm a shy boy. I'm like, where did that come from? Dada told me. So everything you're saying as a judgment, even we don't even think of it, we're not even consciously doing it. But for the child, it's becoming something very, very defining in their world. And that's something we don't want to do. We want them to keep growing, keep exploring, keep going by their awareness of what they are. We don't know who we are. How do you think the child is supposed to go by our judgment of who they are? So really, I would just say, listen more. Don't judge your child. If he's not a morning person, don't force him to be. I'm not saying change and put him in afternoon school, but let him have his days off, at least on weekends, and just let children be without judging them. And one of the third most, I think, important things I would like to share is, there is something called languages of love. And there are 5 languages of love. I'm just going to read them. It is words, gifts, touch, acts, and time. So each child, each human being actually has a different language of love that they understand. Now see, at the end of the day, the most important thing to any human being is to be acknowledged, right? I want to be acknowledged for who I am. You want to be acknowledged for who you are. But the way that you receive this acknowledgement is if I say it in a language you understand. So for example, if my child's language of love, and if he understands being acknowledged, if his language is words of affirmation, if I say, oh my God, you're so good, that was awesome, wow. Now if his language is love, if his language is words, but I'm giving him the language of gifts. Oh, he did this well, let me get him a gift. And I just give him a gift. He's very happy to have the gift, but it actually doesn't mean anything to him. Or let's say somebody's language is touch. Physical touch, hugs, cuddles. A lot of kids love cuddles. But on the other hand, I'm giving him words. You did a really good job. I'm very proud of you. But I'm not giving him that hug to go with. He won't understand it. So understand what is your child's language of love. In fact, we did it two ways. So when I understood the concept of languages of love, I did the test myself to know what is my languages of love, which is words of affirmation. So I like to hear when people say something, oh, you're looking beautiful, or you did a great job at this. But the same thing, if they had to translate it in a different way, I wouldn't understand it. So I sat with my child, I asked him, I said, okay, these are the 5 languages of love. There's words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch, acts of service, and quality time. Which do you think is your language of love? And I thought he would need a really long time to understand and tell me. And I was surprised because he went like, Mama, my language of love I think is, I like quality time with you. And it came so spontaneously. I was like, wow, I've been underestimating this 5-year-old. So now when I want to make him feel acknowledged and loved and want to make him happy, I give him quality time. So we do dates, we do movie marathons, we go out for Maggie and cold coffee, and my husband is great at all that. So when we do this, it makes more difference to him than if we probably say good words or buy him gifts. So what is your language of love? So you can actually Google languages of love, and you will get ample tests, free tests online, which you can which you can use to know yours as well as your children and your spouse's language of love. So find out, start paying a little attention and listening, and don't judge, and you'll just see how amazing things get with you and your children. So the last few videos, they covered on obesity and autism, and I have a very different take on it. So take it with a pinch of salt. If you don't like my idea, throw it out. But if you feel like listening to my different take on it, here it is. So obesity is a lot of things that the child could be holding on to in their system, which is manifesting as the layer of fat. Or it could be where the child is so sensitive that he feels the need to insulate himself from everything that's going on emotionally, which he's otherwise feeling vulnerable to. So that could be one of the things that is causing his obesity. It's of course, you can go to the nutritionists, to the pediatricians and get all of that checked to rule out every other possibility. But a lot of times, it's got lots to do with their emotional state. Sometimes the parent's emotional state, which they are absorbing again. And autism. So autism is far, far from a disability. It is actually a superpower. Now in Access Consciousness, that's one of the things that we learned, is that autistic children actually have such a heightened sense of awareness that simply by, let's say, looking or getting touched by you, they get a whole download of everything that's going on in your world. And if you had to download that into even me as an adult, it would be too much for me to handle. It's very overwhelming. For a little child, you can imagine how much more overwhelming it is when they can feel your anger, your rage, your frustration, your sadness and all of that. So obviously, they shy away from, making eye contact, because they can see through you. They say eyes are the mirror. They can see through your soul. They can see everything that's going on in your world. When you touch them, you're actually downloading your whole emotional, mental, feeling space, everything into them. And which is why they shy away from doing that completely. So if you want to know more, you can check out videos by Diva Dias, D-I-V-A-D-I-S, on YouTube. She's another Access Consciousness practitioner, and in Access we don't call these children autistic, we call them X-Men, because they are guys who have superpowers. They just have to be taught a little bit how to control them, but or have more allowance for them. And so yeah, that's what autism is. So with children, I would just like to say, actually with everybody, nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be, and everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. So don't buy things at face value. Ask questions. What is this really? What's going on? How can I contribute? What contribution can I be to my child? By asking these simple questions, you will actually be able to figure out a better way to be. So House of Happiness has been around for 3 years now, and it's my venture. It started off as wanting to heal myself, find some answers, and now it's flourished into a place where I not only help people heal themselves. Mind you, I don't heal people. I help people heal themselves, including little children who are some of the fastest learners. And I do one-to-one therapies here as well as training programs and workshops. And I think one of my most fun, and the first workshop I ever had was with children, was a Harry Potter based anger management workshop, which was hilarious because we were using spells and curses and Harry Potter characters to kind of connect with the children and tell them just how easy it was to do things. All they had to do was wave a magic wand, and I teach that magic wand. It's an Access Consciousness verbal clearing statement which works like a magic wand, and it's phenomenal when children learn it. Both my children 3 and 7 use it in their day-to-day life. So if they fall down, they'll say, okay, point of creation, turn. The point of creation where I got the hurt, turn, erase, and heal. So when my little 3-year-old starts using this, I get really amazed. When my children lose an eraser, when they start getting angry and they want to make the anger dissipate, they clear it off. They ask questions like, okay, who does this belong to? Send it back because I know it's not mine. These angry thoughts or feelings. So workshops for children are really amazing. There's lots of stuff going on. You can definitely connect with me to know more, but if you do get a chance, learn Access Consciousness, the bars class, from anywhere. It's available all over the world. Just find a practitioner or actually an Access Bars facilitator. Find one closest to you, just go there and learn it. You will be amazed at how much more fun you can have in your life as a parent, as a human being, just as a person. If you want to make kids happy, leave them alone and don't interfere. I mean, if you do realize kids are naturally very, very happy people, it is us that tries to domesticate them into the way our world is functioning. We try to take a beautiful child and make him acceptable, well-mannered, and fit into our reality. And which is not a bad thing, but sometimes we do it without realizing that each kid is unique, each child has his own individuality and sensibilities. And if we just start listening more, judging less, and spending more quality time and letting children be and do what they want and choose for themselves with their own awareness of what they want to wear, what they want to do, what they want to eat, what time would they like to sleep, connect them to their bodies. I think that really works wonders in making them happy. So how can McPaws contribute to happy kids? I think you are doing a great job already with your clothing line. What would be fun for me to see is if you have children on your designing team, and let them actually choose their characters and color combinations and design their own clothes and wear it and flaunt it and do that, it would be empowering kids to another level. But I think you're already doing a fabulous job with your products, your learning platforms, and of course these videos that you all share, which is absolutely amazing. So, well done.